Thank you, Mr. President, for the trust and confidence that you have placed in me. You can rest assured that I will always provide you informed, candid, impartial military advice.
That was General Mark Milley taking on his new role as the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff a little over a month ago, the principal military advisor to the president. I first met Milley nearly 15 years ago on his first deployment to Iraq on a night patrol in 2005 in Baghdad, and again on a deployment to Afghanistan 10 years ago. This time I traveled to the Pentagon ahead of Veterans Day tomorrow, where we talked about the meaning of service, but I started by asking him about current troop levels in Syria after President Trump's recent call to withdraw forces. If I do my math and I look at the new troops going in and those going out, it could be more than 700 who remain.
Well, there'll be less than 1,000 for sure, and probably in the 500-ish frame, maybe 6. But it's in that area. But we're not going to go into specific numbers because we're still going through the analysis right now.
How important is it to keep an American presence in Syria?
There are still ISIS fighters in the region, and unless pressure is maintained, unless attention is maintained on that group, then there's a very real possibility that conditions could be set for a reemergence of ISIS. So we're committed to do that. The footprint will be small, but the objective will remain the same, the enduring defeat of ISIS.
We've now killed Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. They've named a new leader. Tell us what you know about that new leader and what effect, really, will the death of Baghdadi have on ISIS?
His death will have a very significant disruptive effect on the organization as a whole. They have apparently replaced him with another leader. We do have a considerable amount of information on that individual, and we'll see in the days ahead, in the weeks ahead, in the months ahead, if he's able to piece together his organization or not. We'll pay close attention to him, and where opportunities arise, we'll go after him as well.
Iran announced this week it would begin injecting uranium gas into centrifuges. They keep pushing this, making more provocative moves with their nuclear program. Where does this end?
Iran's been a challenge for the United States, since the revolution in 1979. We hope diplomatic efforts will resolve the nuclear issue, the development of nuclear weapons with Iran, and we place our faith in the diplomatic efforts. But at the same time, we'll make sure that we maintain appropriate levels of military capabilities in the region to defend American interests if required.
The U.S. says that Iran was responsible for attacking those tankers, that they are responsible for shooting down a highly sophisticated, very expensive American drone, and yet there haven't been significant consequences.
Well, there's been consequences. Our government has chosen not to react militarily at this time, but we have the capability to, and we've added some capability just as recently as last month. And we'll see. It depends on the scope, scale, and nature of any kind of provocation that Iran does or any kind of threat they do against U.S. forces in particular, or against U.S. interests or our friends and allies in the region.
I want to move to Afghanistan. We have been in Afghanistan more than 18 years. What would you say to someone who is 18 years old, who, male or female, may end up serving in a war that began before they were born?
Well, I think we have to go back to the original reason why we are in Afghanistan to begin with, which is 9/11. So we went there in order to make sure that Afghanistan never again would be a haven, a safe haven to terrorists that would attack the United States. That mission is not yet complete. And in order for that mission to be successful, the government of Afghanistan, the Afghan security forces are going to have to be able to sustain their own internal security to prevent terrorists from using their territory to attack other countries, especially the United States. That effort's ongoing. It's been ongoing for 18 consecutive years. I suspect it'll be ongoing into the future for several more years.
And when you say that we're going to be there that long, that makes me think we'll be there that long in Iraq, in Syria, wherever the Islamic State is.
I think that it's not just the Islamic State, it's other groups, but I think that we will be there for a significant amount of time because it's in our national interest to be there to help out.
I want to ask you about Ukraine. Ukraine obviously has been a very hot topic of late. How important is the military aid to Ukraine, especially with Russia there on its border?
Well, here we are, on the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And since that time, Russia has aggressively acted against Ukraine, and the United States chose to help Ukraine with money, with advisory aid, with training and manning and equipping through 2 administrations, and we're continuing to do that. So I think it's important to continue to help Ukraine maintain its free and sovereign status.
And I want to ask you about Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who has been testifying on the Hill. Do you have any questions about his loyalty? Do you know Lieutenant Colonel Vindman?
I don't personally know Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, but I will say that what I have learned over the years as an active duty military officer is not to comment on active investigations. And I do know that Lieutenant Colonel Vindman is a witness to an active duty or an active investigation being conducted by Congress right now. So it would be inappropriate for me to make any public comments on one of the witnesses.
It is Veterans Day on Monday, and as I look at you and so many other veterans, I see especially those bars, those stripes on your right sleeve. Each one of those means 6 months in a combat zone. You've got 10 of those, 5 years. So many others have sacrificed so much, and the ultimate sacrifice as well. But Veterans Day is to honor all of our veterans. And first of all, who do you think about?
Well, I mean, the first veterans I met were my mother and father, both veterans of World War II. And my dad was in the 4th Marine Division, he was a Navy corpsman in the 4th Marine Division. Made the assault landings at Kwajalein, Saipan, Tinian, Iwo Jima. Saw some very horrendous combat. And then my mother served in the Navy. She was a medical orderly at a hospital out in Seattle taking care of the wounded. They clearly put a sense of service, gave me a sense of how lucky I was to be an American, how lucky I was to grow up in a country where we have freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, and a wide variety of other privileges and rights that are not well known around the world in many, many places. I've had about 242 soldiers that have been killed under my command in one way or another since 9/11, and I think of them a lot at all kinds of times of the day, and 2 o'clock in the morning, and eyes pop open, and you start thinking about what those young men and women have done for this country. And the freedoms we have, Martha, are not free. They're paid for in the blood of all those soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines have been fighting for it for 2.5 centuries.
Fewer than 1% serve in the military in this country. You went to Princeton, played hockey instead of West Point. What is it that you could explain to those Americans who don't serve?
When I went to Princeton, I met the hockey coach, and he was a Marine captain from Vietnam. And he introduced me to ROTC. He said, there's an opportunity here if that's on your mind. So I thought I'd do that and serve my country for 4 years and then get out. But here I am 40 years later. So, and I've not looked back. I've never regretted it. And I think service to the country and service to the nation is a very, very important calling.
Our thanks to the chairman and all of our veterans.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.